Dallas. How are you?
Gordon? I'm just on YouTube. What are you doing?
Wow, I don't know. We've just been live on YouTube talking TAMDHU. Nice shirt, looking good.
Oh, what's that side? Yes, absolutely, Gordon. So, welcome everyone to our YouTube tasting of our wonderful TAMDHU.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, bit of housekeeping. The star of the show, the main man, Sandy, unfortunately, is not with us. He's a little bit ill, I think. So, Sandy, we wish you a quick, speedy recovery. But we will hold the fort as much as we can without you. Yeah, please get better soon. And we're sorry that you can't be with us tonight.
Absolutely, and I'll drink your share, Sandy. So don't be worried about that. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've already had his shit. No, I haven't really. I'm joking. So what has been happening? Well, obviously we're progressing through lockdown and things are easing up a little bit here in the UK. So what we really wanted to do tonight was to really say to everybody who supported us in lockdown with our releases of the whiskies we're tasting tonight, thank you. It's been very, very good of you. And, you know, the Dalby Alley has been going so well, and as has Ian Whitecross, a single cask. So we're going to taste them with some of you who may have those bottles with you at home tonight. Have you tried these yet, Gordon?
I have tried the mystery dram that we can't say too much about.
All right.
Yeah. I have had the whiskies. We did a little exchange earlier in the week. So they've been sitting on my shelf, and I decided not to try them. So when I try them tonight, this will be the first time I've done the Dalby Alley 3. I'm very familiar with 1 and 2. Not tried the third Dalby Alley and the Ian Whitecross. It's a tough act to follow. It was Big Sandy's cask last time, so I'm dying to find out what Ian chose out of those.
Well, it's a belter. It's an absolute belter. I'm really looking forward to it. The other thing we're going to do is take you on a little bit of a journey through our cask journey from Forest in Spain to casks arriving at TAMDHU as we go through. But we also have tonight some special guests, and we felt we should be joined by 2 TAMDHU fans. We are TAMDHU fans, but we work for TAMDHU, as does Sandy. So we decided that it would be a great idea to ask 2 really big fans of the brand and big fans of the whiskies that we produce to come on. So I'm going to ask Gus and Johnny to come on into the stream. There's Gus. Hi, Gus. Hi. Johnny, how are you?
Good evening, guys. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Great to see you both, and welcome to a YouTube live TAMDHU stream. We're excited to have you on, and I guess I'll start by asking. Let's start with Gus. Gus, what's your? I mean, I know how much you love this brand, but what's your connection with TAMDHU?
About 20 years since I've tasted a TAMDHU. I was never a whiskey drinker. Asked a barman in Edinburgh for a nice palatable whiskey, and he said, well, I'm sure you'll like this. And it was a TAMDHU non-age statement, the old green box, and I fell in love with it. I've drunk it TAMDHU ever since, and I'm now a bit a collector as well. So I like a dram. I like to collect it just because the brand, I really fell in love with the brand 20 years ago.
Well, that's great. That's well before, and that just shows you that's well before we owned it as Ian McLeod.
Yeah.
You know, I think what we've stayed true to the credentials, we've gone for full sherry as well, which is great. So that's great to hear, Gus. Johnny, how about you?
So I've got a bit of an unusual link to TAMDHU.
I love it.
My mum and dad moved to Glasgow. They moved into their new house, and my dad was out the front of his house, and there was this wee boy playing football outside their door. And my dad just sort of said hello to him, and I think he asked him about a bus to get into the city centre, and it turned out that it was Sandy. So Sandy was a little man playing football outside their front door, and he was the first person in Kelvindale that my mum and dad spoke to. So we knew them from a young age, and then I kind of found out, you know, as I started getting into whiskey, that Sandy was involved up at TAMDHU, and we had a wee visit up there for my 40th birthday, which was great, and you know, getting to know Sandy again and meeting a lot of the team up at the distillery, and it was just a really special experience for me, meeting all the guys up there. The distillery had a lovely feel to it. It's in a spectacular setting as well. And I would, you know, I would encourage anyone to, you know, if you're passing by, stick your head in and say hello to the guys up there, because it's a special place. So, and the whisky's good as well.
It really is, Johnny. Can I just ask you, Johnny, on that historical story you told us, was finding the posh side of the street?
Yes.
Or the, was it? I thought so.
Oh, aye.
It's like that in Kelvindale.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great, and it can be the strangest connection, actually. But I mean, you know, that's what's great about whiskey, and that's what's great, I think, about when you fall in, you get attached to something, and you just want to see how it evolves, which is fantastic. So that's great. So what we're going to do is
just for a second, because we've got one or two comments. I'd just like to say hello to some people, and we've got Gerard saying hello from Carmarthenshire. He just wants to say hi, so hello. Martin Lawson says, great seeing Gus and Johnny on the telly. Roberto, hello from Poland. So hello there. And Alvaro from Ecuador, South America, says hello. And Mark and Edwin's from the Netherlands. Guy says hello. So it's lovely to just keep your hellos coming in. We'd love to know that people are out there watching us tonight and sharing our passion for TAMDHU. So we'll get back to you. And any questions, I'm here with pen in hand to take some questions and throw them at the guys. So please.
Excellent. Fantastic. And also, good evening to Guy Dutton as well. Fantastic. So I think without further ado, gentlemen, it's time to pull out a drab. Now, I'm a great believer of, if you're doing something about whiskey, you should be drinking a whiskey. Dalby Alley 3. Now, am I correct in saying, Johnny, you've clearly tasted that before?
Yeah, just a small amount.
Gus, this is an all new experience for you, the Dalby Alley 3.
Certainly is.
So,
yes.
Let's get it out now. Look at that. Look at the colour of that. All the Dalby Alleys have been amazing. I've just dropped something, sorry. All the Dalby Alleys have been amazing colour. Obviously, TAMDHU, always natural colour. Everything is sherry casks. But this is the third in the series. And I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, same here.
60.7%. So
60.7.
60.7. So why is this so strong? Firstly, I'm going to explain why that is. A lot of these casks that we use would have been filled actually at higher strengths, would have been filled actually up at sort of close to 69, something like that, and filled into cask because of actually trying to save on warehouse space. If you fill at a higher strength rather than 63.5, you may fill 10% higher, but you're going to save 10% cask space, if you know what I mean. That's one of the main reasons why this is actually a higher strength. So that's the first thing. This is cask strength of a few casks brought together. So let's have a nose of it. See what we think. Now, just to say, this is the third in the series. They always come out every year at the Speyside Whisky Festival, and they celebrate. Obviously, the name celebrates the train station there on site at TAMDHU, right beside the Spey.
Took my wee while, Gordon. Not Dalby, but Dalby Alley. And
Dalby Alley, yeah, Dalby Alley.
It's a beautiful part of the world. That train line must have been amazing when it was running as part of the Strathspey Railway. And TAMDHU was one of these railway distilleries that opened up literally as the railway arrived. But I am very familiar with 1 and 2, Gordon, as you know. But this, number 3.
What I noticed immediately with this one, and I don't have 1 and 2 in front of me, but I do sort of remember, is this has got a slightly lighter profile. And what I mean by that is it's still rich and powerful. It's intense. The flavors are intense. But it's got a little bit, there's hints of like vanilla coming through and hints of that sort of lighter, slightly lighter profile coming through. Maybe more American oak. I have got the cask breakdowns, and there are a little bit more American oak casks in here than the previous ones, which is great because it's a variation on a theme. But what are we picking up on the nose? Any ideas? It's no right or wrong, but it's intense, but it's like mild as well. It's buttery.
It's very buttery. It's very creamy. You know, it's almost like, I don't know, there's kind of bananas in there as well, like kind of barbecue bananas. There's kind of a real sweetness to it, and it's
I like the creaminess.
It doesn't nose of 60.7%. I'd have thought about 52, 53.
So it's not up there.
No, there's no kind of nose burn, and the nose is absolutely phenomenal on it. It's just kind of inviting you to take a sip.
It is. You could nose that for a long time, but yeah, no, there is. I mean, you know, I think what I really enjoy about it is this. You know, there's definitely hints of bananas, but there's also a sort of citrus element. I'm getting a hint of vanilla in there as well. I'm going to have to try it.
I was being polite. Gentlemen, Slanjava.
Slanjava, everybody.
Watching, thank you.
Oh. Now it's strong. There's no doubt it's strong, but it's not overpowering. It's still really smooth. Of course, you can add water to it, but I'm not rushing to want to add water to that. I think that's just really fantastic, rich sherry cask whiskey.
A warm finish, a long finish as well.
Yeah, it is a long finish. Yep. Sherry casks do tend to give you a bit of a richer, longer finish, but you know, one of the things we've always talked about, and we'll talk about it a little bit as we go through the evening, is a sherry cask is not just a sherry cask. There's so many factors that determine it. The type of oak is the major factor. The difference, and I know Sandy is a big fan of American oak sherry casks. His award-winning cask from last year was an American oak sherry cask. And that's that's significantly lighter. It's a single cask, but it's significantly lighter in color than this, which, you know, or Ian Whitecross's single cask, which is a European oak single cask. So they're hugely different factors. And in this Dalby Alley, there is a little bit more American oak sherry cask influence. And I think that just rounds out the European oak a little bit.
I was just about to say, and more a bit front of the palate as well.
And it's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah, it's still there. Absolutely. Ben Marnick, overwhelming ripe bananas. Absolutely.
I just got, you mentioned the strength there. Bob Wind, he asked me how to pronounce it properly. Bob Wind emailed me earlier and said, are the whiskies batch strength or cask strength? What's the difference? You mentioned there about water and dilution. Just maybe ask or answer Bob's point there.
Yeah, good point. Well, a cask strength whiskey. So in this instance, we brought 3 or 4 casks together for the Dalby Alley. And I think it's 3, in fact. And I think the 60.7 will be the average strength of those 3 casks when they're brought together. So it's a cask strength whiskey. The batch strength series, which we do, which is at number 4 at the moment, is effectively the same process. The casks are brought together, but we've actually added a drop of water to reduce the strength a little bit, down to what most people would consider more a cask strength level, which is maybe 58, 57. And it just takes an element of that. It just widens out that profile a little bit. But so batch strength is effectively a strength we've done for one batch of cask, but we have added a hint of water just to drop it slightly. So that's the main difference between that and a cask strength. So yeah, but this is great. So yeah, this has got.
But no,
so
just
we've got
says overwhelming ripe bananas. Ben on the chat there, so he's getting the bananas coming through as well. Yeah. Charlie Glide says no water needed, no water. And Ben again says it's so oily, it's viscous, really sticking to
really
the
viscous. Yep. And there's no doubt when you look at TAMDHU'S Spirit. TAMDHU'S Spirit has a slight viscosity to it. It's very fruity, it's very sweet, very lovely because the way Sandy makes it keeps the stills, you know, at a very, very good temperature to get lots of that copper contact. But and we've got really big condensers as well, which have a really big impact on it. But it has an element of oiliness to it, or I pick up on that, and it means it can really stand up to the sherry notes in this. I'm getting still that licorice sort of sherry finish going on. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And I think
so. We'll keep sipping on this a little bit, and we'll see how the comments go. But Gus, for the first time you tried it, are you a fan?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
I haven't ever tried Dalby Alley 1 yet. Never.
Right. Okay.
I have drunk two bottles of Dalby Alley 2 because I really liked that.
Fair enough.
If I can just jump in there, just because we're getting so many nice comments, and since Mark G says he's missed the festival this year, so it was a shame, and it's maybe a good point. He said he met Sandy, met the team there. It's a nice wee point maybe just to mention. Hopefully that it will be open next year, Gordon.
Let's hope so. Yeah, I mean, good news today. Good news today that our sister distillery, Glengoyne, is reopening to the public at the beginning of August, which is a good sign. And I know there's a huge amount of work going on there to ensure that that will be a great experience and obviously safe and all that sort of thing. And there's some really good people working on it. At TAMDHU, we don't actually have any visitors. It's not something we do a lot of, but the one time we do it is at the Spirit of Speyside Whisky Festival. And that's the one time we want to talk to people, and not to be able to do that this year, I know was a real shame. But you know, these things happen, and we, you know, well, this is a fairly major thing, but we hope that next year things will be back to normal. So we're very excited about Dalby Alley 4 next year.
Oh, yeah. Gordon, was it last year when we were doing the first tour of the day at the Dalby Alley train station, and it was either you, I'm sure it was your idea. You said, let's get the first tasting of the day. Let's do it out in the platform, in the sight of the River Spey. Let's hear the water. Let's drink the whiskey. Was it -1 or was it 0 degrees? And after about the first 2 or 3 minutes, no one wanted to admit they were cold. And finally we cracked.
It was quite cold, yeah. I think it actually snowed in the morning.
That's May.
I think it had actually snowed that morning, yeah. It was unbelievable. But yeah, no, it is the one. Sorry, carry on, Gordon.
No, I'm just saying that's the weather that informs the whiskey we're drinking right now. That weather, you know, that's influencing the casks maturing in the warehouse, whether it's roasting hot as it was last month or freezing cold as it was in May last year. It's all influencing.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask these guys, Gus, out of all since you've had your TAMDHU time and your, you know, from 20 years ago to now, have you got a favourite TAMDHU that you've gone, that's my favourite, or?
Yeah. And it's not readily accessible because it's the Grand Reserva.
Ah, the travel retail Grand Reserva.
That's way up here, eh? But
it's a beautiful whiskey.
For an everyday, a 10 or a 12-year-old, no problem, no issues with that. But the Grand Reserva so far is my favourite. So far, well, it is a hard whiskey to beat. I like it too. It's all first fill, very great whiskey. Travel retail only, limited. Johnny, how about you? What's the one which you think? Yeah,
it's a good question. The single casks are obviously fantastic and quite an experience. But I think my favourite TAMDHU today is probably the 10-year-old they released for the reopening of the distillery. You know, the first
20th anniversary. Yeah.
And I thought that was a spectacular dram. And yeah, I'll need to get a hold of another bottle of it. But I just that to me just it ticked all the boxes, and I thought it was a pretty special dram.
Yeah, no, I agree. That is a bit. It's not a bad one. Let's face it. But I would agree that's a belter too. They're both great. No, absolutely. And you know, I think you know we all have. And I can imagine when you drank those whiskies and you know Grand Reserva, or you're probably with some friends. It was a great environment, and it all just worked perfectly. That's generally how these things go. Grand Reserva, though, works perfectly anywhere. It's a wonderful, wonderful whiskey. And somebody just saying, Bedlam Boar, Grand Reserva is on my shopping list when I can travel again. Same here. I finished my bottle. So, no, I'd agree with that. So what we also wanted to do tonight, guys, and just talk a little bit about, you know, what we obviously are all members of the TAMDHU Appreciation Society, which is absolutely, and it is an amazing society on Facebook of how many members now? 800?
I've just got under 800, Gordon, which is great. It's I think we've been running for just over a year, and it's fantastic. It's just an informal group. There's no, you know, it's just a nice, friendly group where you know people can ask questions. You know, a lot of the team in the distillery are on there, which is absolutely fantastic, and they're often correcting us when we you know, make false claims. So it's just brilliant that they're all on board, and it's just really nice. You know, I've met some great friends through the society and through the group, and it's just all, you know, folk help each other out. You know, sourcing bottles and, you know, sharing samples. You know, meeting strangers in car parks in the middle of nowhere to swap bottles. It's all. But it's great.
Yeah.
And you know, Guy and Mark Petherbridge, who are hopefully watching tonight, they help out. They help out running it as well. So it's great. It's just a nice, friendly group. So,
and for me, it is great group. And Gus, I know you're involved as well. And I love the fact that there's so many people come in and go, oh, this is just something I've not tasted before, you know. And there's 30 people go, God, it's amazing, isn't it? Because we all have that same experience when we drink it. I think that's the really exciting thing about a group like that. And I just love it's very conversational. It's Sandy will drop in and say something. I'll drop in and say something. Well, you know, I think also, you know, when we launched the White Cross, the Ian single cask and the Dalby Alley 3, we said to everybody who was Sandy will sign them, and, you know, all that sort of thing. And it's just I think it's a great thing, and thank you for all that sort of. It's a really important group, so thank you for that. We love to try and keep everybody happy.
Thanks to you guys for contributing to it as well. It makes a big difference.
So if you're out there and you want to join TAMDHU Appreciation Society on Facebook, so right, keep enjoying your Dalby Alley. Gordon, how are you enjoying it? You loving it?
I just added a little bit of water. I know people.
Now, how did that happen? I haven't done that yet.
I did have a little water here. I just added my little pipette, and
I've just done it now.
Not too much, of course, you know, but just lovely. It was just, again, it went from very smooth to even smoother. Maybe a little maltiness coming through there, but for a small splash, to me, it was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Gordon, how would you rate the Dalby Alley 3 compared to the others? What does it rank in terms of your...
Well, I have to sort of caveat the fact that the Dalby Alley 1 and 2 were tasted at the Speyside Festival. In good numbers, with other additions later on that evening. So memories are can be clouded and judged, but I like the balance of that one. As Gordon was saying, it starts off really, you know, full in the mouth and then smooths out, and you get the vanilla, I think, and you get a little bit of the banana. Well, let's say it's the best one. Let's say that.
It's the one in your glass, Gordon.
The one in the glass is the best one. Very difficult to tell, but
they're all great. They're all great. They're like a variation on a theme, and they are, you know, the theme is high strength whiskey.
Smoother, I'd say. I think smoother, lighter in the lighter's maybe the wrong word, but it's like smoother, or it's maybe the American oak influence that are picking up.
Gus, how about you compared to your favourite two, Dalby Alley 2? You two bottles of Dalby Alley 2. You love that. What about this one? Is it compared?
Yes, very much so. I think the bananas and the vanilla comes out much more.
Yeah, it would do. Yeah, absolutely.
I actually added a little bit of water earlier on. You guys didn't spot that. But I definitely feel a little drop of water just opens it up a bit more and helps it just go down the throat nicely. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Just
good. Yeah, no, absolutely. Look at crikey. It's 60.7% alcohol. So it's really worth you know, considering adding water to it. You'll see how a drop of water really changes that. Because when you mature in sherry, it's very thick whiskey, and that water, thin water, thick whiskey, quite a lot happens as a chemical reaction in there. You actually get a exothermic reaction. The temperature of the whiskey actually rises when you add water to it. So absolutely. So what we wanted to do now was to give people who maybe aren't quite as familiar with TAMDHU a little bit of a journey through our sherry cask. We'll get sort of halfway through it, and we'll then get on to this little beauty. Whoa. The Mr. Whitecross single cask. I'm really looking forward to. Although I've had it before, and it's fabulous. So at TAMDHU, we make great whiskey by doing really two great things. We make a great spirit, which if you're at the Speyside Whisky Festival, Gordon would be showing you around and talking you through the wonderful elements of the avocado mill room and all those types of things. But not this time. So what we wanted to do was to talk. Obviously, Sandy has spoken a lot about that spirit side of things and how he makes the spirit with the team there. And it's a big distillery, 4 million litres. So, you know, it's all about ensuring that the spirit quality is great and suits the sherry casks. But TAMDHU is all about the sherry casks, the quality of these sherry casks. And I think, you know, when you taste these whiskies and you add in the fact that we only use sherry casks, Oloroso sherry casks, and we only use natural color, we should be talking about sherry casks when they taste as wonderful as this. So with that, I want to take us to Spain. I want to take us to. I went to Spain in this time last year. It was about 2 years ago. Gosh, 2 years ago, and we went to see the whole process from start to finish. And when I mean start, I mean right in the forests in the north of Spain. So, forest. There we go. So,
I feel I should quick out into the forest.
we just before we go any further, David Swift.
Yes.
TAMDHU'S finally made it to New Zealand. Fantastic. Good to hear. Good to hear. Fantastic. Well, so when we went to, I was there with Sandy, as you could tell, and we cut this tree down. That's about 100-year-old oak tree, that tree. And the first thing you notice about it is the noise it makes when it falls over. It's actually, and you got a little bit sort of funny about it. It felt a little bit emotional about cutting down a 100-year-old tree, to be honest. So the sustainability is at the forefront of this these days, and this is FSC approved wood, and you can only cut down so much trees, which is why these Spanish oak sherry casks are very expensive. At the same time, American oak is imported into northern. Sorry, what was that, Gus? Sorry. At the same time, northern oak is imported in. American oak is imported into northern Spain as well. But that tree is very full of moisture, and so, you know, the other thing that's amazing, that tree that you saw, you might make one cask out of that. Now, none of the oak will get wasted, but it will be used for other things. But we need the long staves. We need those staves for the sherry butts and the puncheons that we make. So it's a really important to get the straight bit of the tree. So that's why the sherry casks are so. That's why the trees are so important. So certainly the you know, those Spanish oak, really different to the American oak trees, which we get brought in as well. And that's the first stage of the process. Then we have to cut them into staves, and we have to air dry them. Now, you could put them in a kiln, but you will not get the same quality of whiskey in the glass that we're drinking. And the air drying period, well, let's have a look at how long it is. So, I think Gus is struggling a little bit on microphone at the moment, so we'll bring him back in.
Right. You said you take him to Spain. I think he's literally taking you at your word, Gordon. He's off.
Exactly. So the air drying period of these. Gus, can you hear us?
Yes, now.
Yes, good. You've moved on the screen as well. You're in a different location now. So yeah, just talking about the staves very quickly. This is the essential part. This is, the way you cut them is really, really important, because it's all about flavor generation in the whiskey and getting those elements out the wood that will give to the whiskey. And this is really, really important. So the cutting of the staves is important. The air drying is retaining some and getting rid of other unwanted elements. So the process is long, and it's not laborious, but it's long. And we're now about 2.5 years into making a sherry cask, and it's 6 years in total. So we've done that air drying, and then we have to actually see a cask being made. And so the cask being made is a really, really important part. There's about 90 guys maybe that will make 120 casks in one day. So it sort of makes you realize how heavy industry it is in terms of manpower. The toasting, all these things come together in that stage of cask manufacturing. Now, Gordon, you went to Spain as well?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Oh,
a little memento from Narciso. So that is a lovely bit of Spanish oak right there, Gordon.
How amazing is that part of the process?
So first thing you notice when you walk in is the noise and the heat, and just seeing the industry of these people and the attention to detail is extraordinary. We were there, Gordon, at Umberto de Mec, and at the very end there's the testing of the casks. Fill it with water to see if it leaks, and just a little bit was coming out the lid. And the big boss man, big chalk, no, back again. And so just amazing attention to detail, and it's just a phenomenal place to visit.
Yeah, and I think the key point is, the toasting is so crucial. We think of bourbon casks, they're charred violently for about a minute. They have bourbon in them for 4 to 6 years. That's what a bourbon cask is when we get it. Produce great whiskey, don't get me wrong, but the toasting is much milder in terms of heat, opens up that oak a lot more, and that's where the color comes from. That is all from that oak. So we know there's an element of sherry, which we'll see in the next video that's in it to season it. But the color in whiskey comes from the oak, and you can see the differences between American oak and European oak when you put Sandy's cask next to Ian Whitecross's cask. There's a huge difference in the colors, and that's down to the oak, absolutely down to the oak type. So really, really important. And this Dalby Alley has both those sherry casks in it.
Just on that very point, Bedlam Born asked, Bedlam Born, how are we doing? How much more expensive are the European oak casks to the American oak casks?
Well, sherry casks are expensive because of the process, but European oak sherry casks are like the most expensive there are. Probably about £1,200 for a European oak sherry cask. So they really are a very expensive, but they deliver this such unique style of maturation. Lots of colour, lots of tannins and dryness, and the things that will pick up a little bit in Ian Whitecross's, which we'll try just after the next video. But Johnny and Gus, I mean, obviously you're huge TAMDHU fans, and we're really happy to have you on tonight. But you know, is there any? I mean, I guess you like other styles of whiskey as well, or Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of relatively late to whiskey. I've only really been drinking whiskey for about the last, you know, maybe 6 or 7 years. But I've always been a fan of sherried whiskies, but that also extends to kind of peated sherried whiskies as well. But
yeah, no, there's some crackers out there. Yeah.
And but I kind of love the flavors that you get from. Well, first of all, I love the color of sherry cask whiskey, because I think, you know, the first thing you do when you pick up a whiskey is look at it, and and you know, a lot of the time the color just it kind of tells me this is going to be good. You know, it's so I've always preferred kind of sherried whiskies to bourbon canned whiskies, to be honest.
Gus?
Yes, I like a variety of whiskies, mostly the sherried casks. So TAMDHU and Glengoyne, love them. The Glengoyne 21 is just outstanding.
Beautiful.
I really like a Bunnahabhain.
It's great whiskey, and I think it's on the rise for sure. Yeah,
a very palatable whiskey. When you go to the 12-year-old and the Store Deer, they're very palatable, easy drinking. I like a bit of smoke, heavy smoke now and again, so I'll go for a Talisker Storm or Dark Storm.
Nice, yeah.
So a good variety I like, yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's my point. I mean, you can love TAMDHU, but you've got to drink other stuff as well. There's some other great whiskies out there. So, absolutely. So, yeah, you know, I think in terms of a sherry cask matured, the other thing that I think is really interesting is that you know, when you finish in a sherry cask, you get a very different experience to when you fully mature in a sherry cask. And I think what's great about fully maturing it is that you actually see the spirit change over that period of time. One of my favourite whiskies, I'll quite happily say, is a Bowmore 15-year-old Darkest. It's actually finished in sherry casks. It's a very different experience to a fully matured in sherry cask, which is what we've got here. So I think it's time we had another dram, by the way, gentlemen. So I'm going to, Johnny's like, get me a dram.
Come on.
So let's try Mr. Whitecross's single cask.
Cannot wait for this. You know what, Gordon? When I started at Ian McLeod's, we went up to TAMDHU to have a tour rounds. Sandy wasn't available. Ian Whitecross was taking his rounds, and before he took his round, there was sandwiches laid out. So I've always had a good feeling about Ian. You know, every time I see him, I think, lovely, you know, man, sandwiches. You know, so this
absolutely.
My opinion of him now even higher.
They love their sandwiches at TAMDHU, trust me. Never ever, if you're ever in a sandwich buffet with Sandy McIntyre, always leave the coronation chicken for him. I'll never forget that. Always leave the coronation chicken for him. Who stole the coronation chicken? So now, this is a single cask European oak, so it is going to be quite different to the Dalby Alley in terms of similar color. I mean, the colors are not that different, but what you really notice here with this is, you know, it's actually lower strength. It's 50. Oh, I can't read it. 57.8.
57.8. 57.8. Yeah.
57.8. So this is a single cask, probably filled at about 63.5%. I'm guessing 5892 vintage 2003. So this is a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, yes, 16-year-old. So this was the nose of this. Ian
had a choice. It had the pick of the warehouses. Is that right, Gordon? He could do what he wants. So that's the story.
Well, he's an assistant distillery manager. Surely he did. Surely he had the pick of the warehouses. Now, as we know, Sandy's award-winning, world-beating American. So the pressure's on Ian, by the way. The pressure is on Mr. Whitecross. Award-winning American oak single cask, we know Sandy prefers that style of whiskey, and that's a beautiful, beautiful example. But this will be a European oak sherry, and by nature has those richer, darker styles. So let's get our nose into this. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh.
Instantly
Now,
got
what I noticed about this earlier is I did the old legs thing.
Yeah.
Where you just draw it around the glass and just leave it and watch how thick this is. This is the legs are slower than, I'm not sure. They're very slow and thick and long. I'm not quite sure what I was going to say there, but I'm glad I didn't.
Yes.
So let's just get in there. What are we picking up here? Oh,
Spices, toffee.
McGowan's toffee.
Yeah.
Caramel.
It's actually 58. It's 57 flat, I think, not 57.8. My eyes are not working. Definite toffee.
No,
Do you know what I'm getting? I don't know why I'm getting it, but I'm getting Nutella.
Nutty chocolate.
Nutty chocolate. Nutella is the easiest way to explain it, but that sort of nutty chocolatey nose.
No sulfur at all.
No, none. No, absolutely not. That's why these are the finest casks. You've seen 3 years of that production process already. We'll have a look at how the sherry works on that in the next. But oh, this is superb.
And just as you mentioned, Johnny, earlier on about the nose prickle, I find this is further up now. It's not really prickling, but it's further up the nose. It gets,
Right, okay, yeah.
Even in the nose. Right, I'm going in. Again, boys, Slanjava. And
that is sensational.
some people are not drinking these because they don't have them. Some people, like Dougie, are saying, I'm drinking the 15. Any TAMDHU you can get, join us. And I mean, I wish you health and happiness, Slanjava.
Oh, chocolate orange now. Nutella to chocolate orange.
Wow.
And a bit of cinnamon.
As well.
That is quite orangey.
Yep.
Is it, or me?
Orange peel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh,
it's very juicy.
Very mouth-watering.
God.
Juicy. It's just full and round. But even before getting to the flavours, I just find it very, very mouth-filling, round, and it's quite smooth as well.
Yeah, it's got a little zestiness, but it's got that sort of. Of course, there's those sort of European oak flavors in terms of the, there's a hint of those dark chocolatiness and things like that. But I'm now getting quite a soft finish, quite a caramelly soft finish.
Yeah.
It's long, it's deep, but this is quite a mellow European oak sherry cask in my view.
Yeah,
it's relatively mellow. Love it. Very different to very different to other single casks that we've done, or even one or two of the previous Dalby Alleys. But it's got a lovely mellowness to it, and that just shows you how different these casks are.
Yeah, I think Gus. Sometimes you take the European oak and it can dry out, and
not very dry.
No, you mentioned about juiciness, and it's lovely, and I think that's
gorgeous.
Oh yeah, just so many layers.
Whitecross, we salute you. What a fantastic choice! That's absolutely gorgeous. That is absolutely gorgeous. So, I mean, I think what's really interesting with that is that a lot of people will look at that and they'll go, "Yeah, it's got those." You hear a lot of people saying it's got sherry flavors, which obviously, Oloroso sherry is dark, it's nutty, it's dark fruits and things like that. But actually, the role of the sherry is to actually change the sherry's in that cask for 2.5 years. 2 years, 2.5 years. And the role of that sherry is actually to change the wood, to make it perfect for putting spirit in. So let's just have a look at the sherry element of our cask seasoning.
Fantastic.
So, I mean, this shows you that every tree is different, every cask is different, and
Right,
you will never get the
guys,
same thing out of each cask. Have you? Oh, Gus got a problem again. We'll wait for him to come back in. And Johnny, you've tried a lot of TAMDHU'S, and you know the diversity you can get from these casks is really, really noticeable in these single casks. And this one is just, for me, it's quite really juicy single cask. Would you not agree?
Yeah, it's lovely. I mean, I think it's just sometimes these. I agree. Sometimes these European oak casks, especially as they get a bit older, can be totally overpowering. Oh, there's Jamie.
Hello. You're live on YouTube.
Hello. You gonna wave to everyone?
Hello, how are you? We give you a TAMDHU'S, but we're not allowed.
We'll see you in 15 years.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you, Gordon. I think this is just a lovely kind of balanced single cask where, you know, you're still getting that kind of spirit, the influence of the spirit there. The cask hasn't overpowered it. It's just, I think it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic. I think
it is. I think
saluting
Ian. Gus, I hope you can hear us. What do you think of that one?
Yes. And as the song goes, she's a belter.
She is a belter.
Well done,
she is.
Ian Whitecross. Brilliant.
Well done, Mr. Whitecross. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gordon Dallas, what about you?
I love it. I love it as well. I just love it. I think you said, once you've said orange to me, that bit of zestiness, and I suppose it's just the TAMDHU'S spirit. And there are some that will and some that won't stand up to a sherry cask. As you've talked about these sherry casks, very powerful, lots of flavours, but still you're getting that fruity flavour coming through, standing up to the sherry notes in the wood. So I'm getting the fruitiness, I'm getting the juiciness, and there's a wee bit of strawberry, a wee bit of zesty, a wee bit of orange, something in there, but it's just lovely and balanced with the richness of the dark oak. So we're getting a
lot of questions coming in.
Yes, there is. David Swift is asking, how does that compare to Sandy's?
Well, we've all probably tried Sandy's cask, and for me, Sandy's cask is a little bit of that more vanilla stewed fruits. It's a bit more of that sort of sweeter vanilla with those sort of plums and apricot-y type flavors, rather than this is a bit slightly darker than that, but really juicy. I don't know what you would say, Johnny or Gus, but I thought I was a big fan of Sandy's cask. I mean, he picked a belter there too.
It was great, but it's just a slightly different beast.
Exactly.
And that's the beauty of single casks.
Yeah, absolutely, and a big difference in colour as well.
Yeah,
I'll throw some questions out, and please join us and answer some of these questions as well. So here's just a few questions. I'll do 2 or 3 and pick which one you want. Before I do that, Ben Marnock has just given a shout to a wonderful Fringe show from 2 years ago. Thank you very much, Ben. Who was in that one? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you very much, Ben. A Fringe show. But Enzo asks, have you guys tasted the sherry that was used to season the casks? Ben asks, is there one type of sherry used in seasoning? So that's a sherry question. Does it make any difference, the excise man asks, where the European oak tree is grown, i.e. hot or milder climate? So there's sherry trees.
Yes, of course it does. Spain's a bit hotter than other places, so you will get a slightly different, although the same variety, you will get a slightly different style. A great thing to notice is if you look at a tree trunk, and they're not totally symmetrical, if you know what I mean. One bit will grow bigger in the center and it'll be narrower at one side. That means that the sun was on this side where it's grown further out. That's where the sun is hitting the trees. So, you know, there's a whole range of different factors that affect trees and are important to understand. The sherry, this is Oloroso's sherry from within the sherry triangle. We actually control what goes in it. We can determine if we want older sherry, younger sherry. Generally, it's about a 5-year-old sherry. I've drunk it. It's very drinkable, but it is sherry for seasoning. So it's been made for that purpose, and it will then either go to be vinegar or brandy or something like that, or it will be reblended with other sherry to re-season after the 2.5 years it's been in our cask. So absolutely, Robert G., Ian Whitecross, an absolute belter. Take a bow. Spot on with the orange peel, Johnny. Fantastic.
Here's a question for the, I should say, it was a Charlie Glide, and hello to Carol Dunwoody. She's in Nabarlour across the valley, says hello. Charlie says, don't forget the TAMDHU'S collectors on Facebook as well. So hello to them, of course. But the question I thought I might ask the TAMDHU Appreciation Society, Stephen Glenn earlier on emailed in, is there a perfect age for TAMDHU? I'll throw it to you guys. Gus, Johnny?
I thought they were all perfect. There you go.
Yeah.
We'll send you the tenner later, Gus. Perfect answer.
Is there a perfect age? I don't know. I mean, I guess the Dalby Alley is maybe a good example. It's a non-age statement. I think it's fantastic. And these single casks that are up in the kind of 14, 15-year-old range are, you know, they're great. The cask isn't overpowering them. There's still the spirit influence there. I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens when the stock matures and the direction it goes in terms of the taste. It's exciting.
Well, I mean, I have to say, in terms of one or two of our other things that we do, I have to say this I find is sensational. The 50.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of this whiskey. It's 46%. It's a really fruity whiskey. It's not all sherry, but it is all sherry, but it's not all about the cask. There's some really good TAMDHU flavors in this whiskey. We brought this out a year and a half ago. We'll be bringing out an 18 maybe in a couple of years' time, which is going to be really exciting. So yeah, this is great as well. Charlie Glide, the 15 is amazing. He's clearly a good judge of whiskey.
Dougie is drinking the 15 as well, and he has to say, first time I met Sandy at TAMDHU, he took us to the local baker. Guess what? He bought us coronation chicken sandwiches.
Hey! Coronation chicken sandwiches. He loves the coronation chicken sandwich. Fantastic.
The things you find out there.
So we're going to get the last video on, which is really the casks now returning from that seasoning, returning back to TAMDHU. And then the magic starts with the maturation. Fantastic. So that's the cask now come home, and they were filled up, both American and European oak sherry casks, and that's how we make our whiskey using these brilliant, brilliant casks. And that is TAMDHU. You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful distillery. Great people, as you say, great fans as well. So Gus and Johnny, thank you.
Just on that video you just showed there, which is absolutely sensational. I love history, as you know.
You do.
In 1898, they were using sherry casks. So even from day one, we think 100 odd years ago they were, you know, or backward, but from day one, those sherry casks would have been brought in. And we know from the first book of the TAMDHU wages book that Cooper got paid the most, apart from the distillery manager. So really from day one, it's all been about the coopering and the wood and the sherry casks coming in. It's an extraordinary...
And we've got a Cooper back on site now as well, which is fantastic to have. So, right now we have a little bit of a special dram. I don't think Johnny and Gus do, I'm afraid, just because we've just found this in the depths of our. But we wanted to. You may have it. I don't know. But
I've got one in the collection.
Oh, you've got one in the collection. Well, fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, the special.
On the road to your house, Gordon.
You could, yeah. You're only about 300 meters away, so you could. Woo! So, Gordon, what is that you are holding?
This is the single cask. So we're still in the world of the single cask, but it is the Edinburgh Airport single cask exclusive, coming in at 57.1%.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And quite a lot of affection for this dram because I spent a month at Edinburgh Airport in one of the biggest activations Ian McLeod's done at any airport anywhere in the world. And it was Edinburgh Airport, and we launched the Grand Reserva, Gus.
Yes,
It was there, and this single cask Edinburgh Airport exclusive. And I have to say, for the month that I was there, it was like a joy getting in there and dishing out some TAMDHU, and it was flying off the shelves. And sadly, of course, with the current pandemic and well, nothing's flying, nothing's selling, the duty free slowly getting back to hopefully where it should be. So we've managed to get some of the Edinburgh Airport exclusives out of the airport that, you know, has been shut, and it is available in the shop. You can now buy this, and there's not many left, I have to say. And it is, as I said, 57.1%. Absolute cracker.
And I think it is going to be on the website, so it is there for people who want to. Because we get a lot of comments. Who say, "Oh, I'd love to get it, but I don't do any flying." Well, here's your opportunity. So, what's different to this than Mr. Whitecross? This is a little bit more stereotypically European oak for me. It's a little bit more spicy. Johnny, I've got a sample bottle. I will drop one down to you over the weekend. At some point, I'll drop it down to Broomhill. If you tell me your address, I'll make sure I drop one down to you. Gus has got one in his collection, but
that's not getting open, though.
Sorry, no, it's not getting open. That's fine.
No.
But this is a little bit more stereotypically. It's got a bit more of that dryness, a bit more of those dark fruity flavors, a bit orangey, a bit of syrupy as well, of course, thick as well. But it's quite different to Mr. Whitecross.
It is. I've done my homework in this one last few weeks.
Oh, 57.1, bit more spicy, apricot, cinnamon, definitely good. Really, really lovely whiskey. Oh, that's absolutely gorgeous. Oh, what a whiskey to finish on. Sorry, I feel really bad about drinking with our guests not drinking. That's really bad, isn't it?
Do you know what, Gordon? I was kind of worried, you know, when you had Ian Whitecross and then the Edinburgh one, you thought, my goodness, they're probably very similar. How can you explain? But as you guys, Johnny and Gus, will know, that's amazing. Same type of casks, but I wouldn't say completely different, but oh my goodness, there is a difference there.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely stunning. It's absolutely stunning. And you know, every single cask we've done, I've tasted them all. We do ones for Taiwan occasionally. We do ones for other countries, Germany. They're all of a level that is, you just don't see single casks like this as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's what's wonderful about the single cask program that we have. And it's great to bring this one back out of travel retail because of what's going on. So if you do want it, we do have it.
Some of my questions, Gordon, just on that point, don't go from that point. Mick Rennie, what's the oldest cask maturing at TAMDHU?
We have we did bring out a TAMDHU 50 a few years ago. Yep. We do have some very aged stock, but our oldest sort of stocks are pretty much where we're at. So around about sort of 16, 17, 18 years old at the moment. Maybe 17's about the oldest we've got. 2003 vintage generally, and a few at really right up there, and one or two others. But yeah, we've got. I mean, we were discussing this earlier. It's a big site at TAMDHU. We're maturing a lot of whiskies on site, so a lot of casks, and we've got more and more warehouses. But yeah, no, there's quite a lot of. We've got to build up the base of TAMDHU. That's the point. Build up those stocks at the base, and then, you know, move forward. But yeah, no, it's very exciting with, you know, what's coming down the channel in the next few years.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, Mr. Dallas, or can we let Gus and Johnny back to their evening?
Just again, the quality of people out there is absolutely amazing. For example, Gordon McIntyre just mentions about a podcast that he started listening to called Whisky Unscripted. And he says, well done, the Gordons. So, I mean, the quality of people out there. So please listen in. We're drinking TAMDHU throughout that podcast as well. So thank you for that. And some great comments from people all around the world tonight.
No, it's been great. We've had people from New Zealand, people from all over the world. We've got Johnny down the road in Broomhill. We've got Gus near Alloa in Sochi, is it?
Yes.
If I could remember that. I was like, near Alloa. What's it called? Sochi. The only place I remember near there is Tillacucci, because I used to have to go there to a furniture store years ago. But anyway.
Yes, I used to live there.
Absolutely. I think we're pretty much done. We've had some great loads of people in. It's been a pleasure to go through these whiskies. Kudos to Mr. Glass on Dalby and the team at on the Dalby Alley. What a whiskey that is. Ian Whitecross, you've absolutely nailed it as well. And to finish off, we've got that Edinburgh Airport single cask, which I know a few people were looking for. So, look, we really just want to say...
It's available online. It's definitely available. That Edinburgh Airport exclusive won't be available for long, as they say in all these shopping channels. But it's true. This is just one of these once-in-a-generation things that's happened with the pandemic, and now we've got something on the website. You can go and buy
if you want.
Yep. Absolutely. Fabulous. So, without really... Thank you, Gus. Thank you, Johnny, for giving up an hour and a half of your evening to talk whiskey. We really appreciate it, and we love the fact you're huge fans of our brand, and the stories that link you to them is brilliant.
Well, what's not to love? Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Slanjiva. Cheers, guys.
We'd love to take you around the distillery when it's all over.
Mr. Dallas.
Yes,
have a good evening.
Same to yourself, Gordon. All the best.
Don't stay in the sauna too long.
It's getting quite hot here.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, guys. Good night. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for everybody who came on. Thank you. Good night.
Yes.
Slanjiva.
Slange.